Hello everyone, this is Donnie aka Elevated with Dota Alchemy, and thank you for tuning in again today. We are doing our best here at Dota Alchemy to give everyone as much high-level knowledge as possible, but we also want to address Dota from a very practical sense as well. It's good to have knowledge of what is considered the best by high-level players and pros, but we also need to make sure to understand that the average Dota player's pub experience is a totally different game. In this new series, I want to discuss and solve the pub experience directly to give more applicable knowledge about how to deal with the wild scenarios that often occur. Hopefully you will enjoy this new series of videos on a practical guide to the perils of Dota 2 pubs. In this first video, we are going to talk about solving the problem of awful communication and how to make the dream work without the teamwork. The problem. It's my way or the highway. Dota can be an incredibly frustrating game and often feels like the results of the game are out of your control. A lot of players try to solve this issue by saying, "Screw my teammates, I'm winning this alone." While this works some percentage of the time, especially if you are significantly higher skill than your opponents or if you're abusing cheese heroes, it is also a direct contradiction of how the game of Dota 2 is structured. Dota is a game that rewards team play above pretty much everything else, and so the YOLO solo player, or YSP as we will address them for the rest of this video, usually creates a lot more problems than they solve. Recognizing a YOLO solo player. The YSP is easy to recognize as they generally refuse to play anything but mid or carry. If forced into a support role, they will usually pick a hero like Riki, Shadow Shaman, or Pudge, and spend the entire game farming, ganking, and basically doing nothing that a support player should be doing. The YSP believes that Dota is a game that is only fun when they have a good game, and that they are entirely responsible for every win and absolve the blame in every single loss. Dealing with a YSP and helping them be the hero. Most games with YSPs are very difficult to play without the correct approach. You will regularly see YSPs dying on the opposite side of the map from where you and the rest of your team are and trying to coordinate. YSPs will generally refuse to buy any of the regular intelligent items that will help them win the game, like detection and BKB or other forms of defense, and will instead opt to exclusively focus on damage and the ability to solo kill enemy heroes. The YSP will also very likely only fight when they have their power spikes and farm otherwise. YSPs will always prioritize their own kill score or net worth above pretty much everything else in the game, so that they can point to their high KDA and GPM at the end of the game if they lose and blame their teammates. YSPs always know best, and they will make plays that they believe in, expecting their team to follow them without question. A little bit of sarcasm there. They don't actually always know best, clearly based on their playstyle. The reason I'm spending so much time defining the YSP is because once you actually understand the issue that you're dealing with, it becomes much easier to solve the problem. Let's make a pro-con list of what the YSP brings to your team so that we can start winning these games and abusing YSPs on the other team. What does a YSP bring to the team? Generally speaking, because of how they play and how they itemize, YSPs will bring to your team lots of damage. If they're having a good game, lots of kills. And also if they're having a good game, pretty good carry potential since they usually tend to pick heroes that can carry the game. But what do YSPs lack? Defense, coordination, communication, and anything that has to do with actually supporting the rest of the team. So how do we win with a YSP? YSPs only win games where they have good games. That might sound a little obvious, but consider that it is more than possible to win games where players from any position have bad individual games if their team coordination is on point. Just because you had a really terrible laning stage in mid game as a Faceless Void doesn't mean you can't win the game with one big clutch Chronosphere that sets up the rest of your team to wipe the enemy team and win the game. YSPs, on the other hand, only win games where they have a good game. This means that the best way to win with a YSP on your team is to do whatever it takes to let them have the best game possible. We're playing selfless Dota here. Most Dota players really want to have a good personal game themselves when they queue for a match. And this is a reasonable approach because having a good game allows you to have more individual control over the outcome of the game. It is possible to have a good individual game without getting a lot of kills and farm, however, and if you are playing correctly around your team, this makes this process so much easier. For the YSP, however, this possibility does not really exist, and so it is important to do whatever you can to ensure that they, the YSP, has a good game. The first step is to analyze what the YSP is trying to do. Note, it doesn't really matter what position you're playing. When there is a YSP on your team, they are the position 1. Even if you're playing as the safe lane carry and they're playing position 4 Riki, they are the position 1. Is the YSP mostly going for kills on a hero like Clinkz, Meepo, or Storm Spirit? Enable them by placing aggressive vision so that they can find those pickoffs and clean kills without feeding their streaks. Are they playing on a farm-heavy 1v5 hero like Alchemist, Luna, or Terrorblade? Stack for them. Place defensive wards in areas that they're farming, usually the safest farm on the map or in one particular lane, and play around these areas to counter gank to make sure that they don't get picked off. Their snowball potential is the most important because they are a delicate snowflake that will melt under pressure from the enemy team. Of course, if you're playing a mid-invoker or an anti-mage safe lane and you have a YSP playing the off lane or as the position 4, you do need to still prioritize your own farm and items. You simply cannot play an invoker without an Aghanim Scepter or an anti-mage without a Battle Fury. Get these items, do your job, but you're going to have to play less greedily. Maybe you don't go for the Midas on Invoker. Maybe you get a Vanguard earlier on Anti-Mage and try to join your team for some fights. The most important thing is just to realize that there is a YSP on your team and that you need to play accordingly and less greedy than normal. Is the YSP itemizing as a glass cannon? Build utility items like Force Staff, Lotus Orb, Glimmer Cape, or Spirit Vessel to keep them alive and killing during fights, skirmishes, or pushes. Provide control for them with items like Halberd, Rod of Atos, or Scythe of Vice so that they can continue to output damage and survive in the fights. Position yourself to be able to counter gank for them as the other team will likely try to jump them, and position yourself in between them and the enemy team if possible to keep them in a safe position and as a barrier for the damage that will likely be targeting them in fights. Sometimes they will definitely get out of position chasing kills because that's all they really care about. And sometimes they will feed by going too deep. This is a difficult thing to play around. If you can save them, then do it, but only if it's not going to set off a chain reaction of feeding by you and the rest of your team. If you have buyback, it's a little bit safer to sacrifice yourself for the YSP. But if you don't have buyback, remember, you are going to be the one that probably has to do all of the split pushing and de-pushing, and therefore, you being alive and able to defend your base is imperative to victory. To address the issue of poor communication in games with YSPs, it is important to recognize what the YSP does and where they're playing. Just because they won't communicate their ideas doesn't mean that you can't read the game and play accordingly. If it looks like they're going to push, play around them. If it looks like they're going to farm the jungle, push the lanes as a distraction and make space. If they're headed to Roshan, ward up the area and make sure that they get the Aegis, because an extra life on an overly aggressive, damage-dealing glass cannon is actually pretty good. The YSP's ideas of how the game should be played may be vastly different from your own, but do your best to understand what they're doing and where they're coming from, and in that way you can enable it and tailor your play around their ideas. Having some empathy for your teammates and understanding that this player probably feels a lot of pressure to win the game because they derive most of their happiness from winning this game of Dota can put you in their shoes and allow you to forgive them for their selfish play. After all, even professional teams put a lot of emphasis on empowering specific players on their team. Playing with a YSP can be one of the more frustrating experiences in the game, especially if they drop the ball and they don't take advantage of the things that you're doing for them and you end up losing the game. The alternative, however, is almost certainly worse, as if you do not play around the YSP, you end up in a situation where it is basically a 4v5 and can almost sometimes feel like a 4v6. So swallow your pride, Reduce your ego for a game at a time. Give the YSP the game that they want. And who knows, they might stop being that YOLO solo player partway through the game and start working with you. And they might even convert to your style of thinking by the end of the game. Finally, let's talk about how to play against a team with a YSP on it. Taking what we know about playing with a YSP, destroying a YSP's game is one of the most satisfying things, and one of the easiest ways to quickly win a game and gain MMR. Having a YSP on your team without the proper approach creates a large amount of holes in a team's play. Take what you know about the YSP and do whatever you can to punish it. YSPs rarely buy BKB at the correct time, so prioritize control. YSPs rarely fight with their team, so punish them with a numbers advantage, whether you gank the YSP by themselves or you take a fight 5-on-4 against their team. YSPs will often tilt and give up if you destroy them in the early game, so draft their counters and break their will in the lanes. Try to place vision specifically to find the YSP and gank them again and again and again. There are all types of people in the Dota community, and learning how to handle each one of them will bring you that much closer to achieving your goals. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Hello everyone, and thank you for watching the video. We genuinely appreciate your time and attention spent with us here on the YouTube channel. Please check out DotaAlchemy.com if you're looking for a way to let this channel continue to put out as much content as possible. We love you guys, and we will see you in the next video.